Have you ever felt an invisible hand guiding you away from someone, even as your heart struggled to hold on? Perhaps it was a friend, a partner, or even a family member, someone you trusted deeply. But over time, the relationship began to feel like a storm tearing away at your peace, leaving you questioning your worth. What if I told you that this storm was no accident? That God Himself might be shielding you from someone who, behind the mask of charm and affection, seeks to harm rather than heal. A narcissist is not always easy to recognize. They can wear a smile so disarming, their words so smooth, that at first you believe they're a blessing. They make you feel special, chosen, as if you're the center of their world. But the truth is far darker. A narcissist thrives on control, manipulation, and self-serving ambition. They draw you close, not to nurture you, but to feed off your light, leaving you drained and confused. You may have already seen the signs, promises that are never kept, criticism disguised as concern, or moments when their charm turns cold, leaving you to wonder if you ever truly knew them. They are often the ones who lift you up, only to tear you down subtly, skillfully, until you doubt your own perception of reality. And the most painful part, they are often people we love dearly, those who should have been protectors but became a source of pain. But let me tell you this, God sees what you cannot. He knows the hidden motives, the whispers behind closed doors, the intentions masked by sweet words. And in His infinite wisdom, He places barriers not to punish you but to protect you. What feels like rejection might be divine redirection. What seems like loss could be His way of leading you to peace. Have you noticed the patterns? Perhaps certain plans with this person seem to fall apart inexplicably. Or maybe you've experienced a deep unease in their presence, an inner voice urging you to step back, though you can't quite explain why. That voice is not your imagination, it's the quiet prompting of the Holy Spirit, whispering to your soul that something isn't right. It's easy to ignore these warnings, to tell yourself that love demands sacrifice, that you must endure for the sake of the relationship. But love is not meant to shackle you. It is not meant to rob you of joy or make you feel small. True love, the kind that reflects God's heart, builds you up, it doesn't tear you down. So when the doors start closing, when the paths start diverging, remember this. God's protection often comes disguised as disruption. Ask yourself, could it be that God is revealing the truth you've been too afraid to see? Could it be that He's removing someone who, while close to you, is not aligned with His purpose for your life? These are not easy questions, but they are necessary ones, because your worth is not tied to anyone's approval or affection. Your worth comes from the one who created you, who calls you beloved, and who fights for your freedom. As you listen today, I want to invite you to open your heart and consider whether the struggles you've faced with this person are part of a bigger plan, God's plan to protect you. This isn't just a speech, it's a call to reflection, a moment to seek clarity and wisdom. You are not alone in this journey, and every step, even the painful ones, are guided by a love that never fails. Let us now turn to 5 signs that God is shielding you from a narcissist. These signs are not random, they are divine markers, meant to lead you out of harm's way and into His peace. Sign 1. Unexplainable setbacks in the relationship. Have you ever tried to build something that seemed destined to crumble, no matter how much effort you poured into it? A friendship, a romance, or perhaps even a professional partnership. It started with promise, with bright hope and mutual excitement. And yet, the more you tried to make it work, the more elusive peace became. What if those endless setbacks were not failures, but signs of God stepping in to redirect you? When God is protecting you from a narcissist, He often begins with disruption. It might feel as though every step forward is met with resistance, as if something invisible is standing in the way. Plans fall apart inexplicably. Conversations that once felt warm turn cold, strained by miscommunication or sudden bursts of conflict. No matter how hard you try to keep the relationship afloat, it seems as though the universe itself is working against you. But this isn't chance. It's divine intervention. Think about the times you felt the frustration of these setbacks. Perhaps you planned a meaningful event with this person, something you hoped would strengthen your bond, and at the last minute, something went wrong. They cancelled without a valid reason or showed up only to ruin the moment with their attitude. Or maybe you've noticed a pattern. Every time you start to feel secure in the relationship, a new conflict arises, shaking your confidence and leaving you emotionally exhausted. These are not random occurrences. They are signals away for God to grab your attention. Why would God allow such disruptions? Because He knows what you do not. He sees the full picture. A narcissist is skilled at creating illusions, presenting themselves as someone they are not. They mask their true intentions with charm, generosity, or even spiritual language, making you believe they are a blessing in your life. But God sees beyond the surface. He knows the manipulation, the selfishness, and the harm they are capable of inflicting. And so He intervenes not in loud, dramatic ways, but in subtle, undeniable moments of redirection. It's easy to misinterpret these disruptions as personal failure. You might blame yourself, wondering if you've done something wrong or if you're simply not trying hard enough. After all, the narcissist may insist that the setbacks are your fault, that if only you were more understanding, more patient, more perfect, things would fall into place. But this is part of their deception. They want you to carry the weight of the relationship, to exhaust yourself in an effort to keep them satisfied. God, however, does not call you to this kind of bondage. He calls you to freedom, to peace, and to relationships that reflect His love. Sometimes the setbacks are external, a series of events that seem coincidental but are, in fact, orchestrated by God. Perhaps a mutual friend steps forward to share something troubling about the narcissist's behavior, or a financial or logistical challenge arises that makes it impossible to continue in the same dynamic. These moments are not accidents, they are divine roadblocks, placed in your path to protect you from harm. Other times, the setbacks are internal, a growing sense of unease that you cannot shake. You may begin to notice inconsistencies in their words or actions, moments where their mask slips just enough for you to glimpse the truth. They may promise you the world one day, only to tear you down with criticism the next. They may insist they care for you, yet their actions repeatedly leave you feeling abandoned and unworthy. This inner conflict, this inability to reconcile their behavior with their words, is God's way of awakening you to the reality of the situation. And yet, these setbacks can feel deeply painful. You might find yourself grieving the relationship you thought you had, clinging to the hope that things will change, that if you just hold on a little longer, the storms will pass. But God's protection often requires letting go of what no longer serves you, even when it hurts. He knows that the longer you remain in the grip of a narcissist, the more you risk losing yourself, your joy, your identity, your faith. Consider this: have you ever prayed for clarity, only to find the relationship growing more complicated? Have you asked God for peace, only to feel the weight of chaos intensify? These prayers are not unanswered. They are being fulfilled in ways you might not expect. The complications, the chaos, the setbacks, they are His way of steering you toward truth, of breaking the chains that bind you to someone who does not have your best interests at heart. As you reflect on these setbacks, you might begin to see them differently. What once felt like rejection or failure can be reframed as divine protection. What seemed like a roadblock becomes a stepping stone, guiding you closer to the life God intends for you. It is not an easy process, and it requires faith, the kind of faith that trusts in His plan, even when you cannot see the full picture. In moments of frustration, when the setbacks feel overwhelming, remember this: God is not punishing you. He is loving you fiercely, shielding you from harm in ways you may not fully understand. Each delay, each disruption is His way of saying, "My child, I have better for you. Trust me." Sign 2. A persistent feeling of unease. Have you ever sat across from someone close to you, perhaps even someone you love, and felt an unexplainable heaviness in your spirit? Their words may have been kind, their actions outwardly supportive, but something deep inside whispered, "Something is not right here." This feeling of unease is not to be ignored. It is one of the clearest ways that God speaks to his children, nudging us to pay attention to what our eyes cannot see. The Holy Spirit is often described as a still, small voice, gentle yet insistent. It whispers to our souls, alerting us to danger, even when everything on the surface seems perfectly fine. In the presence of a narcissist, this unease becomes a constant companion, an inner turmoil that refuses to be silenced. You may find yourself second-guessing their words, questioning their intentions, or feeling drained after spending time with them. This is not your imagination. It is God's way of opening your eyes to the truth. Why does this unease arise? Because your spirit recognizes what your mind has not yet fully grasped. A narcissist operates in deception, using charm, manipulation, and control to mask their true nature. They may present themselves as your greatest ally, offering support and admiration, but their intentions are rooted in self-serving motives. And while their words may soothe your ears, their actions disrupt the peace within your soul. God, in his mercy, does not allow this dissonance to remain hidden. He stirs your heart, urging you to seek clarity and discernment. Consider the moments when this unease has spoken loudest. Perhaps it was during a conversation where their words didn't quite match their actions, when they offered praise but followed it with subtle criticism. Maybe it was a decision they made that seemed to benefit them at your expense, leaving you feeling used or disregarded. Or perhaps it was simply their presence, a heaviness that seemed to linger long after they had left the room. These moments are not random, they are divine signals warning you that something deeper is at play. It is tempting to dismiss these feelings, to tell yourself that you're overreacting or being too sensitive. After all, the narcissist is often quick to reassure you that everything is fine, even as their behavior tells a different story. They may accuse you of imagining things, of creating problems where none exist. But this is part of their strategy to make you doubt your own intuition, to silence the voice of God within you. Do not let them succeed. That persistent unease is a gift, a sign that God is calling you to pay attention and seek his wisdom. In Scripture, we are reminded time and again of the importance of discernment. Proverbs 3:6 says, "In all your ways submit to him, and he will make your paths straight." This means trusting God to guide you, even when his guidance comes in the form of discomfort. That unease you feel is not there to torment you, it is there to protect you. It is God's way of leading you out of darkness and into his light. But why doesn't God simply expose the narcissist outright? Why doesn't he reveal their true nature in a way that leaves no room for doubt? Because God values your growth as much as he values your protection. By allowing you to sense this unease, he is teaching you to lean on him, to seek his guidance, and to develop the spiritual discernment that will serve you in every area of your life. It is through this process that you learn to trust his voice, even when it goes against what you want to believe. There is also a spiritual battle at play, a battle that goes beyond the narcissists themselves. Ephesians 6:12 reminds us that our struggle is not against flesh and blood, but against the rulers, against the authorities, against the powers of this dark world, and against the spiritual forces of evil in the heavenly realms. A narcissist's actions are often influenced by forces that seek to sow discord and destruction. The unease you feel is not just about them, it is about the spiritual atmosphere they carry with them. God, in his wisdom, allows you to sense this, so that you can take the necessary steps to guard your heart and your spirit. So, how do you respond to this unease? First, bring it to God in prayer. Ask him for clarity, for wisdom, and for the courage to act on what he reveals. James 1:5 promises, "If any of you lacks wisdom, you should ask God, who gives generously to all without finding fault, and it will be given to you." Do not rely solely on your own understanding, for the narcissist's deception is designed to confuse and manipulate. Instead, lean on God, trusting that he will make the truth known in his perfect time. Second, pay attention to the patterns. Unease does not arise without cause. Look for the moments that trigger this feeling and examine them through the lens of God's truth. Are there inconsistencies in their behavior? Do their actions align with their words? Do you feel closer to God in their presence? Or do they pull you away from Him? These questions can help you discern whether this relationship is truly from God or if it is something He is calling you to release. Remember that God's peace is the ultimate confirmation of His will. Colossians 3:15 says, "Let the peace of Christ rule in your hearts." If peace is absent, if your spirit remains troubled despite your best efforts to make the relationship work, take it as a sign that God is leading you away. His plans for you are plans to prosper you, to give you hope and a future. Jeremiah 29:11. Trust that His guidance, even when it comes in the form of unease, is always for your good. Sign 3. Exposure of hidden truths. There is a powerful saying that nothing hidden will remain in the dark forever. How often have you witnessed a situation where, despite the lies and facades, truth eventually finds its way to the surface? Perhaps you've experienced this in your own life where, in the midst of confusion and uncertainty, the truth about someone's actions or character became undeniable. If you've ever found yourself in the presence of a narcissist, you know that the darkness surrounding them is dense and deceptive. But God, in His faithfulness, will not allow you to remain in the shadows forever. Exposure of hidden truths is one of the most profound ways that God protects us from the manipulations of a narcissist. These individuals are skilled at wearing masks, creating illusions of who they are, projecting an image of kindness, generosity, and affection that may not reflect their true nature. They deceive others by carefully crafting narratives that serve their own interests, making you believe in a story that does not align with the reality of their actions. But God, who knows the hearts of all people, will not leave you in ignorance. When you are being manipulated, God will expose the truth in ways that may shock, but ultimately heal. Have you ever had an unsettling feeling that something wasn't quite right, but you couldn't put your finger on it? Perhaps you noticed inconsistencies in their words or their actions didn't line up with their promises. Maybe it was a sense of disbelief when things seemed too good to be true, or moments when you felt betrayed by someone who should have had your back. These moments, though fleeting, are often God's way of preparing you for a deeper reunion. He doesn't want you to be caught off guard, vulnerable to someone who would harm you. Consider the times when truth began to break through the veil of deception. Perhaps you discovered a lie they had told, a promise they had broken, or an action that betrayed their true motives. It might have been something small at first, barely noticeable, a hint of a hidden agenda. But over time, those subtle clues became more pronounced, culminating in a moment when everything you thought you knew about them came crashing down. This is not just coincidence, it is the work of God, allowing the truth to rise to the surface so that you can see things as they really are. God's role in this exposure is not to humiliate you or to shame the narcissist, but to protect you from further harm. He is a God of truth, and truth is the light that dispels the darkness. He will not let you remain in the shadows when He has called you to walk in the light. As you reflect on these moments of truth being revealed, you might feel a mix of emotions: anger, betrayal, sadness, or even relief. But above all, you must understand that these revelations are gifts. They are God's way of revealing what was hidden so that you can make informed choices about the relationships you keep. It's important to recognize that the exposure of truth may not always come in the form of an explosive revelation. Sometimes it's gradual, like the peeling away of layers that have long concealed the reality of a situation. The narcissist's behavior may have been difficult to understand at first, but over time, the cracks in their facade to show. A subtle comment here, a betrayal there, a moment of vulnerability quickly twisted into a tool of control. God does not always reveal the truth all at once. Sometimes He unveils it piece by piece, allowing you to process and prepare for what's coming. But there is another crucial element to this exposure that should not be overlooked: your own heart. As God reveals the hidden truths about the narcissist, He is also working within you to open your eyes. When you begin to see the full picture, it can be painful, especially when it comes to someone you trusted, someone you may have loved. The truth can be a bitter pill to swallow, yet as difficult as it may be, God is also offering healing through this process. The exposure of the truth is not only about the other person, it is about you gaining the clarity and understanding needed to walk forward with wisdom. In the Bible, we are reminded that the truth will set us free. John 8:32 says, "Then you will know the truth, and the truth will set you free." This freedom is not just freedom from deception, but freedom from the bondage that the narcissist's manipulations create. By revealing the truth, God frees you from the power that the narcissist has over your thoughts, emotions, and decisions. This freedom is not just a mental clarity, but a deep spiritual release. It is the freedom to make decisions rooted in God's truth, rather than in the distorted reality the narcissist tries to create. As the truth becomes evident, you may also experience a sense of peace. For the first time, you may understand why the relationship felt off, why certain moments made you uncomfortable, or why things never seemed to fully align. When God exposes the hidden truths, it's as if a weight is lifted off your soul. You may feel anger or sadness, yes, but there will also be a quiet peace in knowing that God has opened your eyes to what was once obscured. You can now stand firm in the knowledge that you are no longer blinded by the false narrative that was being fed to you. The exposure of truth is also a reminder that God is not passive in your life. He is actively involved, orchestrating events, guiding your steps, and revealing what needs to be seen. As you look back on the moments where the truth began to unfold, consider how God has been guiding you through each revelation. He does not allow you to be left in the dark. Even when things seemed uncertain, God was at work, preparing you for the truth. Perhaps you're wondering, why does God allow the narcissist to continue in their deceit for as long as Lan? Why does He not reveal their true nature sooner? The answer lies in God's timing and His purpose. God is always at work, even when we cannot see it. He allows these moments of revelation to unfold in His perfect timing, so that when the truth is exposed, you will be ready to respond with wisdom and strength. It is through the process of discovery, sometimes painful, sometimes gradual, that you are prepared to walk away, to reclaim your peace, and to move forward in God's will for your life. In moments when you are faced with the raw reality of a narcissist's deceit, it is essential to cling to God's promises. Psalm 34:18 assures us, "The Lord is close to the brokenhearted and saves those who are crushed in spirit." The exposure of hidden truths may break your heart, but it is also a way for God to draw near to you, to heal the wounds that have been inflicted by the narcissist's behavior. And as He heals, He also strengthens you so that you can walk away from the deception with confidence, knowing that God has already gone before you, preparing the way. God's truth will always prevail. The lies that a narcissist weaves will eventually be exposed. And when that truth is revealed, you will find yourself standing in the light, free from the chains that once bound you. As you move forward, trust that God is not only protecting you from the harm that comes from this relationship, but He is also preparing you for greater things. His truth will guide you, His peace will sustain you, and His love will never fail you. Sign 4, restoration of your identity. Have you ever felt the pain of being pulled away from someone you thought would always be by your side, only to later discover that this separation was not a punishment, but a blessing in disguise? This is one of the clearest signs that God is protecting you from a narcissist when isolation with them transforms into unexpected connections elsewhere, leading you to relationships and opportunities that nurture your spirit and restore your peace. In the beginning, a narcissist may draw you in with promises of deep connection, love, and loyalty. But as time passes, you begin to feel the weight of isolation. Perhaps it's not physical isolation, but emotional and increasing sense that the person you're with is more focused on draining your energy than building you up. They may dismiss your thoughts, invalidate your feelings, and make you question your worth. You might find yourself longing for a real connection, yet unable to find it within the relationship you've invested so much into. But here's where God's protection comes in. He often uses this isolation to point you towards something greater. As the narcissist pulls away, whether subtly or overtly, God begins to open new doors. Perhaps a new friendship blossoms, or a colleague offers you genuine support when you felt abandoned. Maybe a long-lost family member reaches out with a message of love and encouragement. These new connections are not random, they are divine redirection, a sign that God is replacing the toxic energy of the narcissist with relationships that are meant to build you up. It can be difficult to understand this at first. You may feel torn between the desire to hold on to the person who once meant so much to you and the growing realization that their presence is only pulling you further from your true self. The emotional dissonance can be confusing, like being caught in the storm of their behavior, unsure whether to fight for the relationship or walk away. But when God is guiding you through this transition, the path becomes clearer over time. The isolation that the narcissist creates becomes a space for God to work in your life. During these moments of solitude, you may find yourself leaning more into prayer, seeking God's wisdom, and finding comfort in His Word. This period of emotional distance is not meant to hurt you, but to heal you, to help you reconnect with your inner strength and with the relationships that truly matter. As the narcissist pulls away, you may begin to experience a new sense of freedom. The weight they once placed on your shoulders, demanding your time, energy, and attention, starts to lift. It's in these moments of freedom that God reveals His perfect plan for your life. You might not understand it right away, but looking back, you will see how the isolation turned into an opportunity for you to rediscover yourself, to reconnect with others who value and support you. These new connections are often marked by authenticity and mutual respect. Unlike the relationship with the narcissist, which was built on manipulation and false promises, the relationships God leads you to are based on love, trust, and a shared commitment to building each other up. These are relationships that encourage you to grow, not shrink. They honor your boundaries, respect your voice, and celebrate the unique gifts God has placed within you. God's redirection is never random. Every new connection is a reminder that He is always working in the background, even when we don't see it. As you begin to open your heart to these new relationships, you may notice that the emotional weight you once carried begins to lift. You feel lighter, more at peace, and more connected to the people who truly understand and care for you. These are the connections that reflect God's love for you, a love that is unconditional, healing, and nurturing. The transition from isolation to connection elsewhere can also be a time of personal growth. As you step away from the narcissist's grip, you may discover new passions, talents, or interests that you had long buried. God, in His mercy, uses this time to help you reconnect with the person He created you to be. You begin to see that your worth is not defined by someone else's approval, but by the love and purpose God has placed in your heart. This period of reconnection, both with others and with yourself, is a powerful testimony of God's faithfulness and His protection. And as you embrace these new relationships, you may even find that you're able to offer others the same healing and encouragement you've received. God often uses our pain to prepare us to help others who are walking similar paths. The isolation you once felt becomes a story of redemption, a testimony that no matter how far we may feel from His presence, God is always working behind the scenes to restore us and bring us into the community He has designed for us. So, as the narcissist withdraws and new relationships begin to take root, remember this: God's protection often comes in the form of redirection. The isolation you've experienced is a temporary space where God is nurturing new connections that will help you grow, heal, and thrive. Trust in His timing and His plan, knowing that He is always leading you towards something better. Sign 5. The strength to walk away. The narcissist's grip on your life can be so all-consuming that you begin to feel like there's no way out. Their manipulations, their emotional abuse, and their constant attempts to control your thoughts and actions create a web so tangled that, at times, it seems impossible to break free. It's as if every time you try to pull away, they draw you back in, using guilt, promises of change, or threats of abandonment to keep you bound to their toxic influence. You may have felt helpless in their presence, unable to break free from their emotional chains, even though every fiber of your being cries out for freedom. But God sees your struggle. He hears your cries, and He is ready to give you the strength to walk away. One of the most powerful signs that God is dealing with the narcissist in your life is the strength He provides for you to walk away. It may not happen all at once, and it may take time, but God will equip you with the courage to step away from the toxic relationship. He will give you the clarity to recognize that you deserve better, that you are worthy of peace, and that you are entitled to a life free from manipulation and emotional abuse. Walking away from a narcissist is not easy. It's not just about physically distancing yourself from them. It's about emotionally and mentally detaching as well. It's about breaking free from the cycle of control, manipulation, and guilt that they have woven around you. It's about finding the courage to trust that you are better off on your own, with God by your side, than remaining in a relationship that is draining the very life out of you. But how do you find that strength? How do you gather the courage to walk away when you've been so deeply entangled in narcissist's web? First, you must remember that your worth is not defined by the narcissist's treatment of you. You are not worthless. You are not unlovable. You are a beloved child of God, created in His image, and He has called you to a life of freedom and wholeness. When the narcissist has spent years telling you that you are not enough, it can be hard to believe this truth. But God's word is clear. He has plans for you, plans to prosper you, plans to give you a hope and a future. Jeremiah 29:11. Your worth is secure in Him, not in the narcissist's opinion of you. God has been preparing you for this moment of liberation. Through the trials, the emotional turmoil, and the countless days of uncertainty, God has been strengthening you. Even in the darkest moments when you felt like you couldn't go on, He was there, walking beside you, building your faith, and giving you the resilience you need. And now, as you stand at the crossroads of your life, He is offering you the courage to take the first step toward freedom. The narcissist will try to make you feel guilty for wanting to leave. They will try to guilt trip you, using phrases like, "I need you," or "You're the only one who understands me." They may manipulate your love for them, twisting it into a weapon against your own well-being. But remember that God is not the author of confusion or manipulation. His love is pure, kind, and unconditional. He does not call you to remain in relationships that destroy your soul. His plan for you is a plan of peace, not chaos, of love, not control. When you feel the weight of the narcissist's guilt trip, remember that God is your true source of validation. You don't need their approval. You don't need their constant praise or acceptance. You don't need to prove your worth by remaining in a toxic relationship. God has already declared you worthy. His love for you is not conditional upon how much you give to others or how much you endure for their sake. His love is unchanging and unshakable. The strength to walk away also comes from the realization that your well-being matters. For so long, you may have put the narcissist's needs before your own, sacrificing your emotional health and peace of mind to appease them. But God is calling you to care for yourself. In Mark 12:31, Jesus commands us to love your neighbor as yourself. This means loving yourself in the way that God loves you, by valuing your own worth, by honoring your emotions, and by protecting your peace. Walking away from the narcissist is not selfish. It is an act of self-care, an act of honoring the temple of your body and soul that God has entrusted to you. In some cases, walking away may mean severing all ties with the narcissist. This can be one of the hardest decisions to make, especially if they are family members or people you once loved deeply. But God will give you the strength to make this difficult decision. He will help you navigate the complexities of these relationships, and He will provide you with the support you need through trusted friends, counselors, and your faith community. Walking away does not mean that you hate the narcissist. It simply means that you are choosing to honor your own well-being and emotional health. It's also important to remember that walking away doesn't mean that you are alone. While the narcissist may have convinced you that they were the only person who truly cared for you, God is always with you. He is your refuge and strength, your ever-present help in times of trouble. Psalm 46:1. He will never leave you, nor forsake you. Deuteronomy 31:6. Even when you walk away from the narcissist, you are walking toward God's loving embrace. His arms are open wide, ready to receive you and restore you to the fullness of who you are meant to be. As you take those steps toward freedom, you may experience feelings of fear or doubt. The narcissist may try to convince you that you won't survive without them, that you won't be able to cope or thrive on your own. But trust in God's promises. He is the one who strengthens you, who equips you, and who will guide you every step of the way. Philippians 4:13 says, "I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me." This includes walking away from toxic relationships even when it feels impossible. God is your strength, and with Him, nothing is too difficult. When you find the strength to walk away, remember that God is not just restoring your emotional health, He is also preparing you for something greater. The narcissist's control over your life may have left you feeling small, insignificant, and unworthy of love. But as you walk away, you are stepping into a new season, one where you can grow in the freedom and love of Christ. You are walking into a future where your worth is secure, your identity is rooted in God, and your peace is not dependent on anyone else's approval. God's plan for you is far greater than the pain you have endured. He is preparing a future for you where you will know His love in deeper ways, where you will grow stronger and more resilient, and where you will be free to live the life He has called you to live. The strength to walk away is the first step toward the abundant life. He has promised you a life of peace, joy, and freedom in Him. As you stand on the threshold of freedom, take a moment to reflect on the signs that God has been at work in your life. He has been protecting you, guiding you, and strengthening you every step of the way. Whether through the clarity to recognize the narcissist's control, the strength to stand firm in your truth, or the courage to walk away, God's hand has been in every moment, leading you toward a life of freedom, peace, and healing. It is important to remember that walking away from the narcissist is not an act of abandoning them in their time of need. Rather, it is an act of reclaiming your own life, your own peace, and your own God-given worth. It is a decision to trust that God is big enough to handle the narcissist's consequences. While you step into the future, He is prepared for you, free from manipulation, free from control, and free to live in the fullness of His love. Know this, you are not alone in this journey. God is with you every step of the way. He has already gone before you, preparing the path for your restoration. He will heal the wounds the narcissist has left behind, and He will make all things new in your life. Through Him, you are more than a conqueror. Through Him, you will rise above the pain and emerge stronger than ever before. As you walk away from the darkness, step confidently into the light of God's love, peace, and protection. Trust that He will continue to guide you, empower you, and surround you with the support you need to live the life He has destined for you. The future is bright, my friend, for those who trust in God's perfect timing and His unfailing love. This is not the end of your story, it is the beginning of a new chapter, where you can fully embrace the life that God has always intended for you. Walk in His peace, walk in His strength, walk in His love, and know that with God, all things are possible.